My name is Evelyn Carter, and Chicago winters have a way of freezing time. Even the air feels like it remembers things you'd rather forget. When I booked the flight to Seattle, I told my 35-year-old son, Marcus, that we needed a change. Fresh air, salt water, somewhere our grief wouldn't echo off the same apartment walls. What I didn't tell him was that this trip was my quiet goodbye to the version of me that kept pretending life made sense after my husband's death. Daniel Carter, my husband, his father, died in 2019. That's what the obituary said. And in small towns outside Chicago, people believe what's printed in black and white. The accident had been simple on paper. Small boat, bad engine, heavy wind, no survivors. Closed casket funeral. Flag folded with perfect geometry. Neighbors bringing casseroles that went untouched. A wife who nodded, signed documents, and kept living because that's what widows are supposed to do. 4 years later, I was still signing papers, leases, work forms, receipts, but not my own life. So when Marcus said, "Let's travel, Mom, just us," I agreed before my fear could remind me what I'd buried. O'Hare International Airport, 6:15 a.m. Marcus wheeled our luggage toward gate C-17. The floor gleamed. Announcements hummed like background grief. He looked so much like his father. Tall frame, calm stride, quiet eyes. "Mom, you okay?" I nodded. "We're starting over, remember?" He smiled the kind of smile people use when they don't believe their own hope. We boarded Flight 1423 to Seattle, row 18, aisle and window. The hum of engines settled into the bones of the aircraft. I exhaled, watching frost web across the oval window. Somewhere inside that vibration, I thought I heard peace trying to make conversation. Seatbelts clicked. Announcements blurred. A baby cried in row 15. And then, the moment that cracked everything open, someone boarded late. A tall man in a black coat stepped onto the plane after final call, the way men enter rooms they already own. One glance, and the past came back like a flash flood. Jawline, stride, the tilt of the head when scanning row numbers. He sat one row ahead, aisle seat 17C, beside a woman in a navy blazer and low heels. She carried a quiet authority, the kind that doesn't check prices. He leaned toward her slightly, familiar, comfortable. Marcus froze. His voice dropped to a whisper that tore right through me. "Mom, that's Dad, but with another woman." For a second, sound itself stopped. The engines, the chatter, the announcements, everything drowned in disbelief. My brain listed possibilities like an accountant: coincidence, resemblance, delusion, dream. But my heart, oh my foolish heart, knew the exact slope of that shoulder, the rhythm of that breath. I didn't look again right away. I looked at the safety card. I looked at my trembling hands. Then I lifted my gaze 1 inch at a time until his profile came into focus. It was Daniel. Or it was his ghost wearing human skin. I thought of the day we buried him, October 12th, 2019. Rain soaking the preacher's notes, Marcus gripping the flag like it might stop the world from spinning, the smell of wet dirt and disbelief. I had whispered into the wind, "Rest now," believing he had. But here, 30,000 feet above Missouri, my husband, or his twin, ordered club soda and smiled at another woman like the world had never cracked. Marcus turned to me, eyes wide, voice shaking. "What do we do? Should I—" "No." The word left me steady, cold. "We land first, then we find out what's real." The flight stretched like confession. He laughed softly with the woman, once. He leaned to show her something on his phone. She nodded, businesslike, not romantic, but close enough to cut. When turbulence hit, his right hand braced against the seat back, sleeve sliding up just enough for me to see it. A white crescent scar on his wrist, the same scar from 2006 when he slipped carrying our Christmas tree down Ravenswood stairs. No replica could fake that. My stomach turned to stone. Hours later, as we began our descent, I whispered to Marcus, "He'll have to leave the plane. We'll follow. Quietly." He nodded. The plan was logic on paper, madness in motion. Seattle-Tacoma Airport, 11:12 a.m. The plane taxied. The seatbelt light chimed off. The man stood, retrieving a leather carry-on. The woman in navy followed, efficient, not affectionate. They moved quickly, down the aisle, through the jet bridge, toward ground transportation instead of baggage claim. Marcus and I followed at a distance. Near the corridor marked "Restricted Access," she swiped a badge. He hesitated just a breath and looked over his shoulder. Right at me. The recognition hit like electricity. His eyes widened. Not guilt, not surprise. Something deeper. Sorrow mixed with warning. Then the door closed between us. Marcus whispered, "Mom, tell me you saw that." "I saw," I said. "So, he's alive?" "Alive or haunting the living," I murmured. "Either way, we're not done." We approached the nearest information desk. The clerk blinked when I described them. Man, tall, 40s, scar on wrist. Woman, navy blazer, badge access. "Ma'am," she said, "that corridor is federal, authorized personnel only." "What agency?" She hesitated. "I can't say." Marcus leaned in. "Can you at least tell us if that was a U.S. Marshal?" Her silence said enough. A suited woman appeared 10 minutes later. Same navy, same composure. "Ms. Carter?" she said softly. "Follow me, please." Small conference room, CA Concourse Security Office. She closed the door behind us. No preamble. "I'm Special Agent Lena Morrison. I need you to listen before you speak." Marcus folded his arms. "You owe us answers." Her tone didn't rise. "I owe you safety." She continued. "The man you saw is under federal protection. He is not permitted contact with anyone from his previous life. That is all I can confirm." My throat burned. "Previous life? You mean my marriage? My child's father?" "I mean what I said," Morrison replied. "He's a key witness in an ongoing case. His safety depends on anonymity." Marcus stepped forward. "You faked my father's death?" Morrison's eyes softened. "We didn't fake it. We preserved yours." I gripped the table edge. "Then the body we buried?" She didn't answer directly. "Accidents leave fragments. We built a narrative that could hold." Translation: we buried a story, not a man. Morrison slid a plain card across the table. No name, just a number and 3 words. Case 88217 Inquiry. If you call this, someone will vet your identity. You'll be told what can be told. And then she was gone. Marcus looked at me. "Mom, what just happened?" I whispered. "A resurrection nobody asked for." That night, hotel on 2nd Avenue, Seattle. Rain hit the window like a metronome. Marcus paced while I sat at the desk staring at the card. "Call it," he said. I did. After 3 transfers, a man answered. "Deputy Director Howell, Federal Coordination. Who is this?" "Evelyn Carter. You buried my husband for me." A long exhale on the other end. "Mrs. Carter, I can confirm that in 2019, Daniel Carter entered a witness protection initiative linked to corporate financial crimes. His cooperation required permanent severance from former associations. I can also confirm that you and your son were never targets once the arrangement was enacted. So he's alive. I can't confirm current status." "You just did." Silence. Then a final sentence that rearranged the air. "He saved you the only way he could." The line went dead. Marcus sat on the bed, hands in his hair. "He lied to us." "He protected us," I said. "By pretending to die?" Sometimes people don't get to pick the kind of truth they live with. We didn't sleep. At dawn, a note slid under the door. 2 sentences, written in his hand. "I'm sorry. I'm alive. You were safer angry." D. Marcus whispered. "It's really him." I folded the note. "Then we decide what to do with the living." Pioneer Square, Seattle. Next day, the federal building looked like every truth I've ever hated. Gray, windowed, guarded. Inside, a liaison named Anna Reed met us. She looked human enough to trust. "Mrs. Carter," she said, leading us into a quiet room. "You're not here for details. You're here for closure." She placed a thin folder on the table. Inside, heavily redacted pages, photographs, a timeline. One image froze me. A close-up of a scarred wrist, captioned "Artifact Duplication for Continuity." I touched the paper like touching marble. "You copied his scar?" Anna nodded. "We needed the illusion complete. You buried another man to make my husband vanish. We buried a threat before it could touch you." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Did he ask about us?" "Every month," Anna said quietly, "until the file closed. That was mercy, not information, and I took it like medicine." Outside, Seattle rain softened nothing. Marcus kicked at puddles, furious. "What am I supposed to do with this? He's alive, Mom, out there, and we can't talk to him?" I said, "We already talked." He wrote the last word, "safer angry." Maybe he's right. We spent 3 days walking the city, Pike Place Market, Cary Park, the pier at night. He asked questions I couldn't answer. Why hadn't they told us? Could we find him? Would we forgive him? I told him some stories don't need closure. They need containment. But truth has a way of showing up again. Third evening, 6 p.m. Rainier Tower Cafe. A courier delivered an envelope addressed to E. Carter, personal. Inside, a flash drive and a note, for when Marcus is ready. No signature, but the handwriting was Daniel's. Marcus wanted to play it immediately. I said no. We waited until we were home in Chicago. O'Hare arrivals, 1 week later. The city greeted us with brutal honesty. Cold, gray, familiar. At home, I made coffee, opened my old laptop, and inserted the drive. A single video file appeared. The screen flickered. Then Daniel's face filled it. Older, thinner, but alive. "If you're watching this, it means the agency cleared it or I'm dead for real this time. Evelyn, Marcus, I'm sorry. I can't tell you everything. The people I testified against wouldn't hesitate to hurt you. The deal they offered required my disappearance. I agreed. Not because I wanted to leave you, but because staying meant losing you differently." He swallowed hard. "Marcus, be better than I was. Evelyn, live. Don't build your house around my absence. Let the anger burn clean and go." The screen went black. We sat in silence so thick you could set a plate on it. Marcus whispered, "He chose them over us." "No," I said. "He chose us in the only language danger understands. Distance." That night, I went through the motions. Dinner, dishes, news humming low. Then I opened my window to Chicago's winter breath and realized something. I had survived 2 funerals for the same man, and the second one finally set me free. Morning light crawled across my living room wall like it had been waiting years to find me. For the first time since that flight, I didn't wake up crying. I woke up curious. What do you do when the dead send you proof of life? You start by making coffee strong enough to hold the weight of the question. Marcus came by just after 7. He looked different, older, grounded, eyes a little clearer. He poured his own cup, sat at the table, and said, "Mom, I've been thinking about what he said in that video." "So have I answered. "He said, don't build your house around my absence. Maybe we built an entire life around it." I looked at him. "Then maybe it's time to renovate." That week, we didn't talk about the agency or the note or the scar. We talked about groceries and baseball and the new bakery opening on Halsted Street. Normal words, simple air. Because sometimes healing hides inside the ordinary, but life doesn't stay quiet when truth's been let out of its cage. 3 days later, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address, just my name typed clean. Inside, one line printed on plain paper. Your husband isn't the only one who knows how to disappear. Below it, a Seattle postmark. I sat on the couch until the daylight turned gray. Marcus came over that night. I showed him the letter. He called Agent Morrison's number from the card she'd given us. They answered on the second ring. "This is Carter," Marcus said. "Someone's contacting my mother about the case." A pause, then a voice sharp as glass. "Do not respond. Secure the letter. We're sending someone." And just like that, the past walked through my front door again. Federal shoes squeaking on my hardwood floors. Special Agent Lena Morrison arrived within an hour. She held the note with tweezers, sealed it in a clear bag, and said, "This isn't a threat. It's a message from inside the investigation. Someone wants to remind you that what you saw is still alive." "Do you mean him?" I asked. "I mean the world he left," she replied. Marcus clenched his fists. "Are we in danger?" Morrison shook her head. "Not immediate, but it's safer if you both leave Chicago for a while." I laughed quietly. "You want me to run again?" "Not run," she said. "Rest somewhere unseen." I looked at Marcus. "Seattle again?" He half smiled. "Might as well finish the trip we started." 2 weeks later, Bainbridge Island, Washington. We rented a small cottage near the water, nothing fancy. White paint peeling, porch facing the bay. I could smell salt every time the wind shifted. I cooked simple meals, read old novels, walked the shore. Marcus worked remotely, laptop glowing against the window. At night, the fog rolled in so thick you could mistake it for peace. One evening, around sunset, a car stopped on the gravel drive. I peeked through the curtain. A black sedan. Agent Morrison stepped out, alone, no badge flash this time. She knocked gently. "May I?" I nodded. She said, "Mrs. Carter, we located the source of that letter. It came from a former associate of your husband's who's currently in custody. He was trying to make contact." "Why now?" I asked. "Because the case is ending," she said. "Trials conclude next month. Once it's over, some restrictions may lift." I didn't breathe. "Meaning?" "Meaning your husband might be allowed limited communication. A meeting if you consent." Marcus straightened. "You'd let that happen?" Morrison hesitated. "It's rare. But given the circumstances, the director approved one supervised conversation. 10 minutes. No physical contact. Recorded. 10 minutes. 4 years of silence compressed into 600 seconds. I said yes before my fear could protest. Federal Building. Downtown Seattle. Conference Room B. They let us in separately. I sat at a table with a single microphone and a pane of glass that looked one way but wasn't. Through the door, they brought him. Daniel Carter. Not a dream, not a ghost. Gray at the temples, thinner, eyes older, but it was him. He looked at me like a man walking back into sunlight after years underground. We didn't speak for a moment, just breathed the same air again. Finally, he said, "Evelyn." It was the same voice that used to read bedtime stories, the same tone that asked me to marry him on a Chicago rooftop. I almost forgot how to exhale. "You're real," I whispered. "I never stopped being," he said. "Just stopped being yours, not by choice." I wanted to be angry, to scream, but the words melted. "Why?" I asked. "Why didn't you trust me?" He looked down. "Because they threatened to kill you both. Because the day I testified, the world we built became evidence. I was told the only way to keep you alive was to let you grieve me." "Do you know what it's like," I said, "to teach your son how to live without a father who's still breathing somewhere?" His eyes brimmed. "Every day. That was my punishment." Silence again. I could hear the recorder click softly. Government memory capturing private ruin. Daniel took a breath. "I saw you on that flight. I wasn't supposed to. You looked free." I laughed bitterly. "Free?" I buried my heart and called it closure. He flinched. "Then maybe I deserve that grave." A buzzer sounded. 5 minutes left. He reached toward the glass. I can't touch you, but please know, you weren't collateral. You were the reason I survived long enough to make things right. What about us now? I asked. There is no now, he said gently. Only gratitude. Only goodbye. The agent signaled time. Daniel stood. Tell Marcus I'm proud. Tell him the name Carter still means honesty, even when it's paid for in lies. They led him out. And just like that, the dead man left again. This time by choice, not fate. After the meeting, I walked alone along. That summer, I started writing again. Small essays, nothing fancy. Stories about mothers and sons, loss and rebirth, peace and power. A friend from church read one and said, "You sound like that woman on YouTube, Auntie Ruthy." I laughed. Maybe we'd get along. By autumn, I'd built a small following under the name Voices of Auntie Ruthy, stories about ordinary people surviving extraordinary truths. I never mentioned names, but sometimes when the comments filled with strangers saying, "I thought I was the only one," I felt Daniel somewhere listening, finally proud for the right reasons. Thanksgiving Day. Marcus and I cooked together. Turkey too dry, laughter too loud, the way healing sounds when it finally believes itself. After dinner, he handed me a wrapped box. Inside, a framed photo of the two of us on Bainbridge Island, wind-tangled, smiling. Below it, a small inscription he'd etched himself. "Nothing is as it looks, but love always is." I cried, the good kind. He hugged me. "You taught me that." "No," I said. "Life did. I just stayed long enough to repeat it." 1 year later, I still live in the same modest apartment on the north side. Same couch, same chipped mug, same view of the L train that shakes the windows every 8 minutes. But inside, everything is different. Every morning, I write at the kitchen table. Coffee, notebook, sunlight. Every story I tell begins the same way, with a woman choosing truth over silence. Sometimes that woman is me. Sometimes she's someone you'll meet next week. Because healing isn't a single ending. It's a series of small, honest paragraphs. When people ask if I ever forgave Daniel, I tell them forgiveness isn't a door you walk through once. It's a hallway you learn to live in. Some days the lights flicker. Some days they shine. And Marcus, he's doing good. He met someone kind, a teacher named Jenna who laughs from her stomach. He told her the story, all of it, before their third date. She didn't run. That's how I know she's real. Last scene. The porch at sunset. I sit outside with a blanket and tea, watching the sky stain itself orange over the lake. The air smells like distant rain. Somewhere, a train horn mourns like it's remembering someone. I close my eyes and think of that flight. The hum, the scar, the whisper that changed everything. Mom, that's Dad. 4 words that split a life in 2. If I could rewrite that moment, I wouldn't. Because it taught me that truth, no matter how brutal, is kinder than the prettiest lie. The past doesn't vanish when we bury it. It waits until we're strong enough to open the coffin. And when we finally do, we realize the burial was never for the dead. It was for the fear. I sip my tea and whisper into the dusk. Rest now, Daniel. For real this time. The wind answers by turning the page. Family, if this story found you tonight, let it remind you that peace sometimes arrives disguised as loss. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Boston, Houston, Atlanta, Chicago. I love seeing how far our stories travel. If this touched you, drop a in the chat, hit subscribe, and tap the super thanks button if you want to help me keep telling stories about real strength, the quiet kind. Remember, nothing is as it looks, but kindness always tells the truth. I'm Auntie Ruthy, and I'll see you in the next life story. With love, honesty, and a voice that refuses to stay buried.